Let me be clear on that. Like, for example, when you have communities that are saying you have to wear a hijab everywhere and women have to be completely covered and we're going to follow those laws above the actual laws of where we're living here, would you agree that that's a fair criticism?
I would say Islam isn't compatible with Western civilization as a Muslim. Well, Western values, like, what does it even mean nowadays, bro? If this Epstein stuff happened in another nation where caught doing despicable acts to children, destroying innocence is one of the biggest sins in Islam, they should have their heads chopped off publicly for everyone to know.
I'm not talking about the elites and whatever sick shit they do. I'm talking about the actual main street.
90% of Sharia law is self-imposing things that you're supposed to do.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, because it actually ties into the idea of the documentary you just did, is the cultural phenomenon with Islam in America. So I'm a firm believer in the Constitution in the sense that it calls for a separation of church and state. I think sometimes in this country, Christians will overlook that with respect to some of the laws that they try to put in, and I disagree with that. I think you have to have that separation there. I think that's a critical part of America. It's not to be like anti-religion or anything like that. I think the two just need to exist separately. That said, you guys had a chance to, as you alluded to, go and visit some of these different Muslim communities around the country and some of the places where there's people complaining about some of the cultural phenomenons there, to see it for yourself. Before we get to your actual experiences on the ground, would you agree that, like any religion, like Christianity or Judaism, or insert religion here that has an extreme wing, would you agree that when people are concerned with some of the more extreme Muslim adherences, that it is a fair criticism of Americans to say that's not compatible with Western values? And let me be clear on that. Like, for example, when you have communities that are saying you have to wear a hijab everywhere and women have to be completely covered and we're going to follow those laws above the actual laws of where we're living here, would you agree that that's a fair criticism?
Go ahead, kid.
You don't want to take this one?
I can take it.
I would say
I don't want to hear you. Don't let me talk. Go.
I would say Islam isn't compatible with Western civilization as a Muslim. Because if this Epstein stuff happened in another nation where people in power were caught doing despicable acts to children, destroying innocence is one of the biggest sins in Islam, they should have their heads chopped off publicly for everyone to know. Mm-hmm. So, no, I don't necessarily think it's compatible. Regarding the actual documentary, well, Western values, like, what does it even mean nowadays, bro? What are Western values?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking us a question. What do you define Western civilization?
I'm talking more about the
separation of church and state.
The main street. I'm not talking about the elites and whatever sick shit they do. I'm talking about the actual main street, average American who goes about their day. We do have some great freedoms here. Obviously, sometimes we have to fight for some things they try to take from us, and that's righteously so. We should fight for that. But like, there are amazing things that have happened in this experiment called America. So with those values, ignoring obviously the scumbags that exist in certain tops of the bureaucracy and stuff like that, do you think that culturally there are aspects of Islam that are not compatible if people come here and don't assimilate in some way to the American culture?
So people love to talk about Sharia law, right? Like it's like some guidebook on how to rule over people and control every little thing they do. 90% of Sharia law is self-imposing things that you're supposed to do. With praying 5 times a day, with smiling consistently, with giving to charity, with going on pilgrimage. That's Sharia law.
Controlling
over
your
90%
desires, not having sex out of wedlock, taking care of your children if you have them. It's basically basic morality. What I think he needs to hear to answer his question,
I was going to get to it,
is that as Muslims, first and foremost, we were commanded by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Wherever we live, we must abide by the rules and regulations of that country.
Yup.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you cannot abide by their rules and regulations, meaning it affects your faith so dramatically that you cannot practice your faith, then you're commanded to make what they call hijr, which means to actually migrate for the sake of your faith. Those conditions don't exist in America, and I do believe Islam is compatible in Western civilization with the laws that are in place. I am a absolute free speech absolutist. Jake Lang, who I believe is an agitator to stir the pot between Christians and Muslims.
Who's Jake Lang?
He's the guy that we kind of like. He's the one that's been leading the protest in Dearborn, in Plano, Texas, and most recently almost had his legs split like a chicken wing in Minnesota. Claims to be a white supremacist with a Jewish family on his mother's side, throwing swastikas up. That's most recent videos right now coming out of Minnesota. I think that was from his last march this week. Throwing literally out of the back of a van. Someone that has Jewish family, okay, and claims to be a white supremacist. So for me, it is compatible with American society, because in the America that I have always believed that we lived in, you have freedom of speech, you have the right to practice your faith as long as you're not imposing on other people.
Can you take the phone off the cord there? Sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
As long as you're not practicing, as long as you're not
Off that
imposing.
cord, too. On no cords. Thank you.
Okay, so as long as you're not imposing, forcing people. They try to make it seem like we're here on some secret mission to convert people to Islam and force them to Islam. And I believe it's just noise to distract from what's really going on in the world right now. That's number one. Another threat that's not even, let's say even if what they're saying is true, is that more precedent right now than the corruption we have in our government? Are the Muslims going to be able to take over this week? No, you should be paying attention to Epstein, the network that's involved there, and everything that's been going on.
I agree.
Lastly, is it compatible with the West? Yes. Yes, it is. As long as we have the right to practice our faith and go to mosque on Fridays, and absolutely Islam can exist here and not be a threat. But as far as morals are concerned, where are morals in our country? We're very famous for saying we wish America was a Christian nation. It's not. I wish they were following the morality of Christianity, women being modest, not having premarital sex, not having children out of wedlock, which we can also back up statistically is the cause of 90% of violent crime.
I do want to say, just for the record, the opposite of Sharia law, especially as it pertains to women, is certainly not the answer. I don't think that's a good trend in society.
How many baby daddies, brother? They want to talk about how Muslims can have more than one wife.
OnlyFans, all this shit.
Yet the majority of Muslims don't have more than one wife. I personally, someone that's been married, would not take 2 wives, 3 or 4, even if they were the most gorgeous women on earth, and I had millions of dollars. Oh, you bought her Chanel bag? No, you're going to buy me? I would have jumped off the first building if suicide wasn't forbidden in Islam. So for me, what they try to take from this faith that's actually an obligation to the man, meaning if you can't control yourself and you want more than one wife, you better take care of her. You better take care of those children. You have a responsibility and a duty to the Creator. The society we live in, there is no responsibility. Kids are all over the place. 3 different moms and dads and all mixed. And it's just, we are a nation full of bastards at this point. We are the bastard nation.
Bastard nation.
The generation of bastards. Children born out of wedlock, no responsibility. These hoodlums are in the streets burning everything to the fucking ground. They have no guidance because it is an oppression for a child not to know their dad and their mom. It's an oppression. It's a form of oppression. Children have rights. You could fuck around. You can have sex and do all that stuff. Take care of the life you brought into this earth. So for me, what are we compatible with? I think a lot of people listening to what I just said would say, yeah, a man and a woman should take care of the child. So are we not compatible? Or have people forgotten basic morality? I think people see what Muslims are and what they really stand for. And I think deep down inside, it pisses them off. They wish they could be like that. They wish they could have the discipline. They wish they could have the respect. There is no respect in this country anymore for anything.